Izaka Hills is a concept proposal for the planned redevelopment of the Roppongi West District in Minato-ku, Tokyo. For Tokyo's first redevelopment of the scale to be planned since the coronavirus pandemic, it's prudent to reevaluate the goals of such sites. In the age of remote work, cities can't take for granted that people will need to come in to work and therefore to live nearby. So instead, cities must work to emphasize their strengths, the things that bring people together, so that people will want to live in, work in, and visit the city. To this end, Izaka Hills' primary design consideration is how to nurture community amongst its residents, workers, and neighbors. Inspired by Minoru Mori's interpretation of Le Corbusier's vertical garden city concept, the majority of building floor area is concentrated in two towers, one at each end of the site, opening up space for a large tiered garden to be framed in the center. The Roppongi West site is one of contrasts. More than half a kilometer long, while only 150 meters wide. A bustling commercial road abuts its northern border, while a quiet residential neighborhood lies to its east. A steep change in elevation of 20 meters exists from its east to its west side. Izaka Hills' buildings and landscaping are deliberately shaped in response to these constraints. The steep change in elevation is leveraged to create grade separated pedestrian and vehicle traffic flows. Building and dense greenery are massed so as to shield the central garden and residential areas from the bustle of bordering commercial streets. And key sight lines from Roppongi Hills to Tokyo Tower are preserved. But Izaka Hills is more than meets the surface. Continuing the principle of the vertical garden city, space underground is used just as deliberately as the space above ground. A grade-separated pedestrian network connects the entire site with neighboring subway stations to the north and the south, allowing barrier-free and umbrella-free access to the transport nodes of Roppongi Station and Azabu-Juban Station. A world-class all-weather sports complex and multi-purpose assembly hall are woven through the foundations of the low-rise buildings and under the central garden. It all starts with the main tower and the sloped metro route building, which connect the site to the landmark Roppongi Crossing, framing a new icon on Gaien Higashidori. These buildings house offices, residences, a hotel, meeting and convention facilities, and commercial space for the associated businesses such as restaurants and convenience stores. The main tower and the metro route combine to form a multimodal transport node connecting the site with Roppongi Station and the surrounding roads. By leveraging the difference in elevation between the northeast and the southwest of the site, connections are made between the complex and the roads on its northern and western borders, while also connecting those roads to each other, all in such a way that intersections are minimized for optimal traffic flow. Inspired by the form of Japanese castles, a sloped stone foundation surrounds the main tower along Gaien Higashidori, topped by a contrasting low-rise building. However, unlike a castle, the stone wall is perforated by storefronts and entrances to welcome in the community. Just meters away from the bustle of Gaien Higashidori, low-rise buildings and ample greenery connect the existing low-rise multifamily residential neighborhood along the site's east side. This side of the site is entirely free of vehicle entrances, helping maintain the tranquil atmosphere of the existing neighborhood. However, pedestrian entrances are provided in order to improve access to the nearby public transport and to the surrounding areas. On the southern end of the site, the residential tower hosts businesses essential to daily life on its first 4 stories before gracefully sloping back to its tower form. Doctors, dentists, a pharmacy, pet care, groceries, and other essentials of a rich and healthy life are close at hand. The deep, step-back terraces bring an advantage to living on the lower floors of a residential tower by providing ample outdoor space in the city center for those who like to maintain their own plants. Ascending gradually in height as they approach the main tower, the collection of buildings along the site's western edge serve a variety of functions, hosting boutique retail and dining in the 3-story buildings near to the lower park, while commercial retail and a library are housed in the building topped a semi-honeycomb lattice closer to the main tower. Concentrating the majority of floor areas in the towers at either end allows for an expansive garden to extend throughout the center of the site. Inspired by the wasabi fields of Izu, the tiered garden provides a green oasis in the city center, with separate paths laid to meet the different needs of visitors and residents. The 5-tiered waterfall aligns with Tokyo Tower, not only from within the site, but also from Roppongi Hills pedestrian bridge across Keyakizaka Dori, creating a photogenic scene from many locations across the neighborhood. Although not divided by walls, the central garden is shaped to allow different portions to serve different functions. In the residential area, a daycare and preschool open out to a children's playground nestled between the residential tower and the locals' museum. Museum Suzume is one of several features of the site designed to create community, a third place to socialize outside of the home and work or school. Although the site's neighborhood of Roppongi is replete with museums hosting renowned works from around the world, this museum is of and by the locals. It will host classes for and exhibit the creative works of community members, building connections and hopefully even sparking friendships between those who might otherwise have never had occasion to speak due to the often anonymous dynamics of life in an apartment tower. No community is complete without a library. Beyond a building to house print media, a good library should serve as a space for both inspiration and concentration. Izaka Hills Library sits on the upper floors of one of its commercial buildings and is shaped into sections tailored to the needs of different age groups. A mural illustrating the constellations of the night sky adorns the building's uppermost ceiling. Inspired by the celestial ceiling of New York's Grand Central Terminal, it hopes to open the apertures of visitors' imaginations and, as it peeks through the atrium, to draw visitors through and up into the building. One of the primary goals of the library is to create a safe and constructive space to nurture the growing independence of teenagers and young adults. Drawing upon the same concepts as university libraries, this section provides individual and group study space along with various collaboration spaces for schoolwork and social interaction outside of school and home. While the site's neighborhood of Roppongi is replete with a variety of cultural institutions, one area in which it is lacking is in athletics. Moreover, Tokyo's climate is not the most conducive to year-round fitness, with increasingly hot summers and a pronounced rainy season making consistent outdoor fitness challenging to say the least. In response to these challenges, and thanks to the unique shape of the site, a world-class all-weather fitness facility is installed under the central garden, providing a full-size track and courts for sports such as soccer, tennis, and basketball, while an 8-lane 25-meter pool is installed in the center of the residential tower. While digital collaboration technology allowed an impressive amount of work to continue in spite of the lockdowns of the COVID-19 pandemic, the abrupt shift to working from home saw many people having to work from cramped and often unideal makeshift home offices, crammed into a corner of a room already being used for other purposes, such as a bedroom or a living room. These challenges were compounded for those who live with a spouse or partner who also needed to work remotely. Finding room for a proper home office setup is particularly difficult for families who live in apartments, as their limited floor area is often divided only among a living room, kitchen, bathroom, and bedrooms. To the extent that some apartments have a separate space for a home office, it is often small and windowless den or nook. This reflects the inherently limited amount of space bordering an apartment building's exterior walls, wherein outward-facing windows can be installed. As a building is scaled to a larger footprint, the ratio of area within a fixed distance of its perimeter scales less than linearly, compounding this challenge. For these and other reasons, many larger apartment buildings have a hollow core around which the hallways of the building are wrapped. While some buildings feature open-air hallways that allow for a room or two of each of their apartments to look out onto the central courtyard, this is often considered undesirable since the hallways are exposed to the elements and the inner windows look out onto the hallway, decreasing the privacy of the home. As such, many high-grade apartment buildings opt for enclosed but windowless corridors, thereby missing the potential to bring more natural light into the building. In response to these seemingly irreconcilable factors, the Izaka Hills residential tower introduces a new concept, the trunk office. Just as many apartment buildings feature storage units known as trunk rooms that are separate from the apartments themselves, these trunk offices are rooms suitable for use as a home office located within the same building, but separate from the individual apartments. This separation has several benefits, starting with the fact that it allows them to be placed on the opposite side of the inner corridors, enabling windows to be added facing the inner courtyard without the disturbance of people walking directly in front of those windows. And while the view of an enclosed courtyard may not be the most inspiring, the natural light afforded is certainly preferable to a windowless room. Through the design of its buildings, infrastructure, and programming, Izaka Hills seeks to further improve Tokyo by carefully building community, responding to evolving work styles, and not only complementing but enhancing its surroundings. All this is done in the aim of helping nurture in those who live in, work at, or visit Izaka Hills the project's ultimate goal, an inspired mind in a vivacious body.